Hey, hello. Good morning, post-apocalyptoids. This is episode 9. Episode 9 of Post-Apocalypse World, which is our Apocalypse World post-show, if that is not obvious and clear. What we do here is we talk about whatever happened on yesterday's episode of Roll20 Presents Apocalypse World, and there is often much to discuss. Yeah, it's usually a big episode. I'm always waiting for that one where I have nothing to say, where I'm like, well, yep, okay, that was the episode, great, fun times. Nothing to say here. But there's always stuff. Even if I'm not taking a ton of notes, I've always got something to say about the campaign, which I guess is good, because it means I'm having a good time, and I'm being entertained, and I'm engaged with the campaign. And it's not running itself, which, as we all know, would be nice if campaigns could just do those things. But, on the other hand, it's nice to be, focused on being able to run the game. And there's always, little things to tweak and adjust. And the players, I don't know, have you noticed this? If you've been watching the show? Actually, you know what? Hold on. I'm gonna put a pin in that. We're gonna slide it out of the way. And the traditional spoiler warning, this is a very spoiler-heavy show. So if you have not caught up on Apocalypse World, as much as I love you, please put those Maelstrom isolation headphones on and carry yourself away, because you're going to get spoiled. Big spoils. Spoils that are so significant that I almost screwed up the episode yesterday by getting excited about something when it happened, but I didn't want to spoil it. I didn't want to spoil it. Anyway, we'll talk about that in a second. So, what I want to talk about is what I have to do to run this game. So you'll notice that at the beginning of the campaign, I was doing more like, this person wants this, and they push you in this direction. This person wants this, they push you in this direction. And this guy's a jerk, and this guy's not a jerk. And they're fighting each other, and what are you gonna do? And a lot of that. But I've slowly slipped backwards into the darkness, and now I'm just this cloaked figure. I'm the frickin' Minotaur now. This is a product of Apocalypse World. This isn't all just me setting up the dominoes for the players to knock them down. This is about a game that's built to take the players and make them the core of the game, right? And God, I cannot wait until we can have this conversation about the differences between Burning Wheel and Dungeon World, or Apocalypse World, or Night Witches, or whatever. They're all the same force engine, the same narrative drive. Funny drinking game, if you're watching this show, or you want to go back and rewatch, every time I accidentally call Act Under Fire, defy danger. Take a drink. You will be plastered in no time. So anyway, the thing here is that, Apocalypse World is about the characters being in the middle of a large web of things that are consistently pushing forward, that are momentously, driving the game from the beginning onward. And Burning Wheel is a little bit more nuanced. It's all gears clicking together, moving things around, and you pull a gear and exchange a gear and move things around. And there is that momentum, but it's much more about the characters. Anyway, it's interesting. I'm curious to see what you think about the differences between the two. So keep that in mind when we go into doing the show for Burning Wheel and the post-show for that as well. So, anyway, one thing that I've sort of noticed about this campaign is that more and more, and a lot of this goes to the strengths of my cast as role players, but more and more I've had a chance to sort of step back and let them do their thing, which makes the game, for me, a lot easier to run. In the same way that the system not having dice for me to roll makes the game easier to run, because I don't have to constantly engage the mechanisms the way the players do. So I can just focus on what's happening, what's going on. My mechanisms are purely narrative. I don't have dice to worry about, that kind of stuff. So interesting watching that growth. What I think we're going to do next week, because Avison's going to be away on a special assignment vacation, what I think we're going to do is that John and Andrew and I are going to sit down, and I'm going to moderate a little conversation between the two of them about PvP in role-playing games, creating an interesting character, pitting your character against the other characters, and how to survive a game where the characters are at odds with each other. And I really hope that the cast of Swan Song watches that episode. Because, you know. So that's something I think we're going to do, and I think that those two particularly have this strength, this very good skill set that's been built up about them that they can then use to kind of GM themselves and each other. I think it'll be a good episode, so we're going to do that next week. I think it'll be really valuable to people to do that little talk show thing. And, you know, plus, I don't want to not play. I don't want to not have a show and hang out and do that. So, yeah, so we're going to probably do that next week. So let's talk about what happened in our previous episode, in episode 9 of Apocalypse World, titled "We Are Not the Good Guys," which, no fucking shit, Frankie. No shit, you're not the good guys. Like, goddamn, you are a mess. But it's the post-apocalypse, and that's how it goes. Okay, I'm gonna get the thing out of the way, because I know people are waiting to hear what it is. So, a thing happened in the last episode that tied so neatly, so beautifully into my previous post-apocalypse world, into episode 8, that I thought I was going to cry. It was so good. And it was like dramatic irony at its most beautiful, because Avison said something that would have indicated to me, had I been watching and not, known that it was secret information, that she was watching that show, or she knew what was going on. Because, so, near the end, we were talking about Navarre, and how Navarre, is perfectly suited to the post-apocalypse, right? And the previous post-apocalypse world episode, I had made a note, and we had talked about this, that maybe Navarre was never human to begin with. Maybe there is no Navarre. Everybody else, there's people, they die, they're replaced with copies. The Maelstrom is trying to repopulate the Earth with beacons or buoys so that the colonizing force can take over. But we established that Navarre is not a person. Navarre is one of those. She's a pre-copy. And I wrote on my notebook right here at the beginning of the episode, Navarre placed on Earth by the Maelstrom, not human, underline, underline, underline. And at the end of the last episode, Avison said, literally, used the phrase, "I was made for this world." And I was just like, it's perfect. Like, they're just... That's one of those things that only happens rarely as a GM, when everything just kind of like falls into your lap and the players buy into your secret plot without ever knowing what it is. And it was just like, it was magic. It was magic. It was GMing magic. So when this show is all over, and Avison, when you're watching this after the fact, thank you for that. I know you didn't do it on purpose, but it was beautiful. It made my day. So that happened, and I think that's what the next episode is going to focus on. I would have loved to have made the episode called "I Was Made for This World," but maybe that'll be the next episode's title. I really like how the the group has sort of split. We're doing that kind of HBO whatever thing where it's like, we're going to go back and forth between the scenes. And hopefully, this is my exercise, hopefully I can keep the pacing of the two units going forward in a way that feels natural, sort of normal, Like, it's hard to do... It's hard to do that as a GM, to say, okay, we're going to split the party. And honestly, like, this is the thing that splitting the party... is a thing that, Gary and Dave used to warn us against. It used to be like, don't do it. It's going to kill you. It's going to ruin everything. And from a party perspective, it meant, like, mechanically, it's more effective to stay together. Because if you split up, you're CR goes down, and whatever, you're less likely to overcome obstacles. But also from a GM perspective, it was like, God, don't make me run 2 separate games in the same universe, set apart from each other. And you know, I'm okay with that in a game that supports it. And Apocalypse World, and this is something I was talking about in the Q&A, Apocalypse World has GM moves. It has moves where the GM is supposed to take action, right? So players do something, GM makes a move. Players do something and fail a roll, GM makes a harder move. And one of those moves is separate them, which is what I did, right? I separated them. So I'm feeling pretty good about that and how that's going. You know, we may end up with the next episode being the Frankie and Navarre show and the Gritch show, but that's okay. You know, because part of what makes that work is players who are mature enough and experienced enough to take a back seat and to listen and to pay attention to what is happening when they're not on screen. But it's also about this idea of sort of kibitzing about what's on the screen, about throwing out little bits of information and being like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if this happened? Or what if this guy said this? Or like, you know, and I'm hoping that John and Avison feel okay with doing that while, you know, Gritch is on screen and vice versa. But it's also presented me with a challenge between matching how the game goes on the 2 major fronts that I think we have ahead of us, because the players have nuked all the fronts so far except a few. So let's talk about that in a minute. I gotta update the map. So I have a name for a weird zone for the first time. That's cool. So it's all in tiny, tiny letters, so you might not be able to read it. But this weird zone is never going to get any bigger. Never going to get any bigger, but it might get more dangerous, and it's going to need to be added to... Speaking of dangers, me dropping my pen on the floor. Okay, fuck it, never mind. I'll just use a computer. I'll type like a... Yeah, let me zoom in so y'all can see. So, we're going to see something in the next episode here in the Fisher Zone that we have not seen yet. Depending on how it goes, Navarre is going to interact with the colonizing force directly. She is returning home to her robot overlords. I need to barf forth the most possible apocalyptica here. So you might have remembered at the end of the last episode something that I did. I asked Avison about Navarre's mom, about Navarre's family, right? And again, if you know me and you've been watching this show, you know that like family is a theme in games that I run, right? Whether it's adopted family, like in Swan Song, you know, Pi and Piani, or whether it's literal family like you know, Mom Bon in Mirror Shades, or in this game, you know. So family is a big deal for me, and I want in games for the most part. I mean, if you watch me, like, this is the thing. I was thinking about this last night. Now that I'm running 4 games in public, picking up on the things that you do repeatedly. Those are, they're patterns, right? Like somebody mentioned a little while ago, and this is really interesting, that I tend to do this, and I'm gonna get a little self-reflective here if you don't mind, about games in general and about GMing and thinking about how you might be doing this. So in my game, someone pointed out that I always have a thing. I always have some like social thing that come up in social or philosophical thing that comes up in games. In Mirror Shades, it's like race struggle, you know, racism, and that stuff. That's kind of the thing in Mirror Shades. In Swan Song, it's like multiculturalism, like ethnicity, and diversity, and religion, right? Those are big themes in Swan Song. And and to a lesser extent, like capitalism. And then in this game, this is all existentialism, right? It's all ontological, philosophical, like, stuff. So, you know, I've been thinking about whether or not to... It's like when you're a writer and you write different genres, but your themes are kind of the same. Like Chuck Palahniuk writes similar stuff, regardless of whether he's writing, you know, a book about fighting or a book about someone who scams people by pretending to choke to death. I was thinking about, as a GM, like, how can I leverage those themes without it being like, oh, Adam runs another game about a cult, right? So anyway, things to think about when you are GMing. So family in this game is a way for us to explore character. And so I wanted to use Zion as, the woman Zion, not the theme or the place, the woman Zion as a door. I think she's been absorbed. She's been subsumed by the Maelstrom and is going to provide Navarre a way to walk into her home space. But I'm going to make it all metaphorical and apocalyptica. I'm going to be barfing sigils and stuff all over it. But basically, I want to have Navarre have a conversation with her parents. Navarre is my Rachel Terrell, right? She's the replicant that doesn't know she's a replicant. She has memories of a spider spinning a web outside her window. So that she's going to come face to face with that doubt. And what I'm hoping for is that when Navarre comes back from the Zion door, she can do so, Avacyn can do so with some question about what it means to be alive. Is she real? I want to put that feeling in her, you know, in her emotive space. That's right. So I think about when I'm GMing, how do I make people feel things? So I'm hoping that I can help, you know, Avacyn kind of get to a place where she's got some doubt about who Navarre really is. And what's interesting is that while Navarre is getting, these sort of vague feels down here, upstate somewhere, science is happening. So the Clave, this is where we're going to get some real answers about Gritch, about nothing, about the disease. Like, this is me opening the treasure chest and saying, this is what I know. Gritch, what do you know? And you know Andrew, and you know me, and you know that we're going to work together to fill those gaps in the most interesting, strange, apocalypse-y way possible. So I'm really looking forward to it. So I think the next episode is going to be a lot of Apocalypse World style answers, which is to say more specific questions or different questions anyway. So traditionally what we do with yon map, let's expand on it. And we know that Westridge can repel the weird zones, so this one expands, and I think we're going to swing it down this way a little. There we go. And we're going to expand the little guys. Everything is getting weird, as if it wasn't before. Oh my god, this, look, can you imagine being in this place right here? Like, that is some weird ass zone. Weird zone right there. Holy. You know, each zone has its own theme, its own effects. I have no idea what any of them really are. I kind of just make them up as I go. But, like, this has the effects of all three of these zones at once, which is holy crap. Alright, little zone here. It's going to grow inland. This zone's going to grow. Uh-oh, can't get out. You are stuck now unless you go all the way overland and then get a boat. You portage, I guess. De portage. Okay, we're going to grow this zone. I see some more overlapping going on there. Sure, we're go ahead and do that. Just want to expand this one a little and move it down. Zones. Here, there you go. Let's make one zone completely subsume another. Cool. Yes. Alright. The passage of weird. This is messy. Cool. Alright, so let's take another look. Let's zoom out a little and see how our zones are looking. Ah, it's beautiful. What a beautiful, weird diagram. I'm just gonna make this one slightly more circular. There we go. Oh boy. I mean, hey, like, at least Mercer's Enclave's okay, right? Holy shit. Let's increase the depth of some of these too. Do you think they'll notice the zones have moved? Yeah, I definitely think that they will. Okay, well, so there's that. This represents the Maelstrom winning, basically, like reconstructing the world. And what I'm doing here is creating a sense, hopefully, in the PC, is that not that it's hopeless, necessarily, but that change is hard to affect when you're small, right? Like, I guess on kind of a... subtle level, without maybe really realizing it, there's some themes of like colonization in this world. I mean, obviously, like alien colonization, but the idea of a power you can't fight, right? Like, God, and this is the depressing thing, is like the PCs, and like Frankie especially, because like my heart's breaking for Frankie because she wants so badly to be the hero, right? Like, the world is ending again, or continuing to end, or getting worse, and all she wants to do is save it. She wants to save the world. And sometimes the world changes around you and there's nothing you can do about it. And like, this colonizing force is turning her friends against her. It's making her kill people. Like, people that are normal humans. Like, those raiders were humans and now they're dead, right? Like, they're responsible for murdering their own people as this force, this colonizing force, tries to take over their home. Yeah, it's fucked, right? It's fucked up. Frankie's got a plan, but the Maelstrom doesn't care, right? The Maelstrom is the dull axe edge of inevitability coming down on the earth. But it's still before 9 o'clock, right? The real shit doesn't happen until total coverage. Which is, which is the thing. So, world's getting messy, everybody. It's getting real. So, let's take a look at our fronts. Let's look at how I manage, from a GM perspective, how all this is going. So we're going to pop over. I haven't really changed the relationship map. If you haven't seen it in a while, let's take another look. I need to kill off some people in it, but speaking of complicated red lines on maps, I'm super curious about, and we'll talk about this later, but about the connection between Satan and Frankie. I'm wondering if this business arrangement is going to become a romantical one. Because Satan's actually a pretty nice person, right? Like, they're angry and not to be fucked with, but they're decent. Sort of. I don't know, as decent as anybody, right? Like, Biz is a decent person. Biz is the Podrick Payne of this universe. That's a funny revelation, actually, that Biz is totally Podrick Payne. Biz is like, I am over my head here. I do not know what I'm doing. Someone please help me. I just want to be loyal and helpful. And that's all we get, right, out of him. But it's cool because he's doing okay. Like he's attached himself loyally to Gritch and is just trying to like hang on. So yeah, I like it. Yeah, Pythag, if they do get in a relationship, I'm totally changing business arrangement to romantical sexy times. You just wait. Alright, so, yeah, I'll update this as need be. There's some characters who just never ended up being relevant. There's some that have changed. Lots of dead ones. I would argue maybe more dead people than alive. Or, like, it's pretty even. We'll see what happens at the clave. Yep. Okay, so let's look at our fronts. On the home front, we have Biz. Now, Biz, if you haven't caught this before, Biz was picked up from my front. Biz used to be a person I could use to fuck with the players, but I'm not allowed anymore. Somebody took him away from me. Andrew. But really, though. He's been moved. And if you watched the last episode, you could see Andrew trying desperately to do this with nothing, to take nothing away from me. And he can't. He's not allowed. Haha. Because he keeps failing. And so what happened was that he picked him up out of the front using his seduce and manipulate, and got to move him into this area. So Biz is now Gritch's right hand, able to follow through on Gritch's intentions, and he's been doing that, right? Like, you notice, if this were not true of Biz, if Biz was still a threat for me, I would have put up a bigger fight when Gritch was like, let's go to the Weird Enclave, and Biz was like, no. That sounds like a bullshit idea. And Gritch was like, no, you should come with me. And I didn't make him roll. Because I was like, no, you know what? He's your right hand. He can see that you want this. He's going to follow through. He's going to help you out. That informs my decisions as a GM. That teaches me how to operate my characters in the world. So, again, I'm going to use one of my favorite phrases. And it rhymes with dictional derisioning. Fictional positioning is like such an important thing about role-playing games in general, but this role-playing game in particular, where if you can fictionally position your character to get a thing or to do a thing without necessitating a roll, you're in this this situation. You can get the things that you want without having to endanger your character or risk losing something important. So in this case, you know, here's the thing about this game, about Apocalypse World, that if you roll a move, if you make a move, there is a chance that you will fail and everything will go horribly wrong, right? So Gritch is on this frictional provisioning. Nice, good one, Sock. So if you're on a trajectory with your character, right? Gritch is like, I'm gonna go, and I'm gonna go to the clave, and I'm gonna take with me the the sedated mind of nothing, and I'm gonna get all this shit worked out. I'm in charge. I'm Gritch. I'm a PC. I'm gonna go do this stuff. And you start going, and Biz is like, hey man, this sounds like a bullshit idea. I'm as the GM, I'm like, okay, Biz is a threat. Biz is trying to fuck with your stuff. So Biz is refusing to go. And so Gritch has to say, all right, Biz, if you don't come, I'm gonna be really pissed. And I'm gonna kick you off the boat. So, seduce, manipulate, Gritch might fail, Biz might shoot him, all kinds of bullshit might happen. It might spiral totally out of control. But because of a previous roll, and because of fictional positioning, Gritch didn't have to make that risk. The risks will come later, but not yet, right? So this is a thing. This is a way that I get to choose how hard to push, how hard to make those moves. Cool. Okay. So Biz is safe from my crosshairs. Just trying to help. He's in a dangerous situation, but he's not a threat. So we are done with him. Moving on. Bismo. Yeah, this is the thing. My first threat, my baby's first threat, gone, toast, finished. Game over for Mercer's Hold. So I'm actually gonna, I'll just draw a box around it so I can actually still see it later. Done. Let's draw a line. Oops, no, I want red, thank you. Bam. Okay. All right. So Mercer's Hold gone. It's finished with, which is cool, right? Like we've resolved an entire hold. It got to 9 o'clock. The Fishers attacked. Nothing got involved. There was a war, and it's over. And Mercer lost and died. Both of Nothing's kids are dead. So that's a shame. And the other big fear front, Tao's disease, right? So, God, the disease is complicated. Hey, like a lot of the time, you know, as a GM, you're expected to kind of come up with the answer to everything. But I'm in this position where I can leave open some of this stuff to interpretation, and we've talked about it lots. The disease has been called into question many times throughout the game. And this is how I understand it. This is my current structure. You ready for some spoils? If you've been watching this, none of this might be spoilers to you, but if this is your first Post-Apocalypse World episode, get ready for Spoiler City. So, long time ago, maybe before the apocalypse, maybe when the apocalypse started happening, maybe, you know, patient zero of the alien invasion occurred. And notifications started coming up. People started to notice this. Maybe the CDC realized, hey, there's a biological component to whatever the fuck is going on. Whatever this weird shit that's happening to people, there's an engineered, a genetic element to this. Maybe they got their hands on a dead clone, and using the world before's technology, we're able to say, oh shit, this is an alien pretending to be a person. We need to combat this threat. Right? So the CDC or whoever, they started to genetically engineer a counter disease. Something that would slow the effects of the maelstrom, maybe. Something that would, I don't know, help stop the problem. Maybe it was too little. Maybe too late. Didn't work. The apocalypse happened. This alien force somehow flooded the Earth. Maybe the first stage was changing the conditions of the Earth before they could really take over. But the point was that the disease didn't work. And so it was, you know, it was around in a lab somewhere maybe, and maybe they passed on that information. Maybe in, you know, the dying of the world, they hid away their research, their unfinished research, and said, you know, if only we had the right material, if only luck were on our side, if only something had changed. So, scroll time forward. Memories dissolve. The world comes apart. We forget, you know, the work that we've done to try to fix these things. And enter the clave, right? And I think that the clave, whether they remember or understand or know it, they are the descendants, they're the inheritors of all this research. And so one of their members has this condition. They have some bloodline, something special about them that allows them to change the disease, to change the effects. And so they modify this person, they take away his name, they make him empty, they make him nothing, and they send him out into the world, right? So that he can go forth and multiply, right? They want to propagate the disease. And where best to do this, where better, in fact, to do this than the place where all the food comes from, and where everybody is built on this idea, this social idea of having babies and making families and getting involved. And so this guy gets picked up by some good Samaritan, some poor fool, right? And he gets married to one, and time passes, and he has kids. But something goes wrong, right? He doesn't fit in. He's getting bad ideas or something. We don't know. We don't know what's going on. Something is happening to nothing. So they got to send in another agent to recover him, to fix things, to modify the problem. Ready for spoilers? Anybody know who it is? Anybody know who goes to operate the rescue mission? Which Claver? It's Gritch. Yeah, of course it's Gritch. So, Gritch, who, in my mind, and I'm going to confer with Andrew about this, like, live, but in my mind, Gritch is Nothing's handler. Gritch was Nothing's, Gritch was the person who was responsible for the disease. Gritch is a doctor, right? A memory doctor, and now a real doctor. Like, Gritch isn't learning new skills here. And I want to hammer that in as hard as I can. Gritch is not learning anything new. This change to the angel is not a forward move. It's a step backward for Gritch. Gritch is just relearning what they already know. The scalpel, the chemistry set, all that bullshit. It's just he's already got that, or they've already got it in their head. This is information that she's picking up from her own memories, right? And so now, imagine you're Metropolis, right? Imagine you're Metropolis, and you're waiting for the plan to come to fruition. And one day, Agent Gritch comes home, and they've got nothing with them. And now it's time to see if the plan worked. But obviously, things went not in a way, Gritch was not prepared. Gritch had a problem. There was a failure in Gritch's memory because Gritch was supposed to fix it. But something went horribly wrong with Satan and the Fishers and all that stuff, and it's been bad. It's been real bad. So now we need to figure out what's going to happen. So let's look at the disease a little bit. We know it's vectors. We know it can be transferred psychically. And that when you're infected, you can't really pass beyond this stage. That there needs to be a psychic part to it. And this is where I think Gritch is like self-incubating the disease. Right? The disease inside Gritch has taken on an evolution. And in fact, really at this point it's mutated. Like Frankie and Navarre and Gritch all started, and Tau to that extent too, they all started with the disease in one stage, right? Version 1. But the disease metastasized and mutated and modified itself inside Gritch's body, which is allowing it to become this whole other thing. And when we finally see Gritch get to 12 o'clock, no one knows what's going to happen, right? The Clave doesn't know. We don't know. I mean, nobody has a clear idea. Even me, right? What does transformation look like? But we've answered some of these questions, right? Like, I think that there's separate processes here. The Claver's ability to hide themselves is partway technological, partway psychic. We know, what do we know about the world? What we know about it comes from the playbooks. And we know that there's sci-fi technology. We know there's things like violation gloves and isolation headsets and, stuff like that. And so there's a technological element that gives Gritch or the Clavers the ability to defend themselves from the world by hiding. And it went wrong. It broke, right? Gritch is broke. Then Gritch forgot everything. And he's the prodigal son returning home, right? The prodigal child returning home to their mother. And Gritch, she's in an odd place. And so I think it's going to be interesting. Like if you're watching the last episode, you saw the discomfort, right? Where the next episode is really, even the end of this episode is really about going home, right? Finding what home is. Because look, Frankie, and this all happened by accident. Gritch went home to the Clave. Gritch doesn't know it's home. Navarre, I was made for this world, is going back to the Maelstrom to see, what's happened. And then Frankie might have a home, but like we've seen, what future is there if Frankie joins the Fishers? Look at this. So going home, what is home? Fishertown can move, but where's it gonna go? I mean, it's not called Fun Time Happy World. Remember, and I said this in my first episode, one thing that I love about this game in particular is that apocalypse, the word apocalypse, the etymology of the word means unveiling or revelation, the making clear, right, of something unclear before. And that's what's happening, right? The game is about being made aware of the new truth of the world. What state, what is it, where do we exist now, and what are the rules for that place for us? How do we survive? How do we thrive in this place? What is the revelation, So, things, right? I'm not going to advance this anywhere yet. We know Gritch can't possibly be replaced. This is also true if you're very badly injured. Frankie might also have that true of her now. I think if you die... Because Frankie did die in the weird zone, technically. But she also had a near-death experience. There's some unclear stuff. It doesn't matter. It's less interesting to just make Frankie a copy. I like Frankie being for real. Okay. So let's look at our stakes questions. What will Mercer do when she finds out Frankie killed her sister? Nothing. Dead. Will the disease take away Gritch's powers? Yes, eventually. Will nothing get what he wants? Can he stop the invasion? We won't know this for a while. We know the parameters for infection. It's bloodborne for now. We don't know what transformation looks like, but we do know where the disease came from. So that's cool. We answered that. Will nothing be able to annihilate his family? He's almost there. He's almost there. He just needs to annihilate Gritch. Gritch just needs the annihilation, and we're done. Will Gritch learn the truth about the disease? Who knows? The Clavers sort of remember. Burns definitely remembers. I mean, do we want to talk about the Clavers' relationship with Navarre? Because I think this might be clear. But in case it's not, let's talk about it. So, the Clavers are... Let's make an analogy. I'm gonna refer to a piece of fiction you may or may not be familiar with. It's called The Lord of the Rings. And in it, there's a magic artifact created by the Dark Lord, and he's a bad dude. And so he makes this magic artifact, And it's super powerful, and if he dies, which he does, it can be used to bring him back, but it's also got a bunch of other cool powers. You can use it to do magic shit that it's not clear. It makes you invisible at least, but anyway. So magic artifact. Magic artifact falls into the hands of the good guys, and the good guys have this debate. What are we going to do with it? What are we going to do with this magic ring? And most of the good guys are like, it has to be destroyed. We have to hurl it into Mount Doom. It's a scary place. And the only way to destroy it is by doing that, because that's where it was formed. So let's hurl it into the fires of Mount Doom. So there's this guy, right? One guy of the good guys who's like, hold the phone here, everybody. Hold the phone. I think, now this is just a crazy, crazy idea. I might just be a simple Gondorian guy. But I think if we use the ring, we could kick some serious ass. And I think you should give it to me. I will return it to Gondor, which is where he's from. And I'm going to use it to... I'm going to use it to kill the bad guys. So, in our analogy, Navarre is the One Ring. The Maelstrom, or its benefactors, they are Sauron, and the Clavers are our Boromir, right? People who, Burns is Boromir. The Clavers are the ones who say, yes, we know the truth of Frankie. She's not just any old gold ring meant to be kept secret and safe. She is a weapon of the adversary. And we can use this weapon. So in the past, sometime, the weapon of the adversary fell into the hands of the Clavers, who have been trying to, by way of manipulation, by functionally supernaturally gaslighting her, they've been able to guide her in certain directions. So it's likely that they hooked her up with Frankie, right? So put Navarre on Frankie's boat. They've been swapping her armor out. But yeah, like Sith Master points out here, Navarre's been corrupted by the disease, right? Navarre's been infected. So the ring has been converted. The ring has been changed. Maybe Boromir is right. Maybe it's possible. So, we're going to have to wait and see. The Clavers are trying to wield Navarre like a weapon. Now, the world, and this is the fucked up sad thing, the world is trying to protect itself, right? On ontology, trying to correct itself. There's this whole Gaia theory of the Earth being like an organism. So I think that while the Clavers want to use Navarre to kill that which threatens them, the Navarre defense system, the Earth wanted to disarm Navarre. And God, this is why this stuff is so sad to me, is that the attempt to disarm Navarre was a beautiful person, a person of such beauty that even the impervious weapon of the enemy, even the killing machine Navarre, was helpless but to fall in love with him. And if anyone on Earth could have stopped Navarre from going down this dark path, would have been Smith July. But Smith July got taken from us by the Maelstrom. And now, who knows? Right? Who knows if Navarre is even capable of stopping. So what's interesting too is, and I if I can possibly ever make this happen, I would love to be able to bring Austin back to play Smith July before the end of the game, just for one episode, to just be like, you're back. You can try to redeem. You can try desperately to redeem Navarre one more time, but it just might not happen. And I'm not gonna play Smith July as an NPC. It would be a, I don't know. It would be a disservice, I think, to the work that Austin's done. But I think that memories of Smith July are going to be a thing that Navari can turn to try to stop from becoming ultimate supreme Maelstrom destruction force. 20xdx. Cool. So that's a sad thing. I mean, if you want to tweet Austin Walker and be like, hey, please guest on an episode of Apocalypse World before it's over, please, please, please. You could. You might be able to take some time off in his busy giant bomb schedule. But if he says no, let's all just accept that that's a thing. You know, he's going to be in Burning Wheel, so don't QQ too hard. You get to see him tonight. I know we all miss him. I certainly do. But, you know, if you wanted to gently nudge him and let him know he's missed, that would probably be okay. All right, so let's keep looking through this. So what will happen once Mercer's hold is destroyed? Will it stop the weird zone from spreading? I mean, yeah, sure. Look, let's not be so flip about that. And I know I'm running out of time, so I gotta kind of roll through this stuff. So, all right, Mercer's hold being destroyed stopped that hold from becoming a bigger zone, but it didn't fix anything. What the PCs need to do is they need to work on the disease in such a way that they can make an anti-weird zone, right? Like, look, this is something the Clavers did once, I think don't know how to do again, but the Clave cannot be weirded. It's the block that cannot be taken apart. So this is a thing, right? And if they could create something that would make this happen elsewhere, like, it's almost not a shame, but it's interesting that we have an angel and not a savvy head, because Andrew's gonna, if he's gonna do it, he's gonna have to be a person that does this, and it's fine because it's a disease, but he'll have to turn someone into an anti-zone and start clearing the zones themselves. So that's that for that one. So what'll happen? Yes. How does the disease affect people differently? We don't quite know yet. Has the disease been taken beyond the Maelstrom? Yes. So the alien force has been infected by the disease. They'll probably be able to fight it off, but they know it exists now if they didn't before, and it's a real thing. Will the PCs kill Mercer? Fuck yes, they will. They definitely did. What will Nothing and Gritch decide to do? Well, Gritch decided without Nothing's permission to take him to the Clave. How does the disease combat the zones? When you transform, can you shrink them? We don't know, but probably. The disease is going to be the way that if they want to save the world, they're going to have to use it. And they're going to have to survive the change that it brings on through a transformation. So, decay. This is a thing that I'm going to very quickly touch on. And I'm going to tell you this spoiler right now. If these things happen... So you remember there was a roll where Nothing tried to grab Biz's gun? That gun was not for Biz. The gun was not for Gritch. If that roll had failed, if Nothing had got a hold of the gun, it would have been gun in hand. Nothing would have killed himself. That's... It's a good thing that Nothing is sedated as badly as they are, because they want to die now. They have given up. And if Nothing is conscious, alone, and has the means, he's going to try and kill himself. His daughters are dead. When he came face to face with Mercer and saw that happen, it's like it doesn't matter. Like, Nothing would have rather, at the end, when it came down to it, Nothing would rather have just had his daughters. Like, an illusion, whatever. He tried. He fucking tried to save the world. He's the failed superhero. He tried to save the world, and it didn't work. And now these people, the characters, have killed his family. He's a tool, right? He's been used. And he's all used up. So we'll see. We'll see how long Nothing lasts. Colonizing force still hard at work. Minotaur, Maelstrom. They're all trying to, it's just trying to blast their way to colonization. Now, I'm going to switch these two, because I think that only a few humans remain is going to be the next thing on the list. All right, any questions for this one we've resolved? Will a PC join the Annihilation? The Annihilation is kind of a personal thing now. Yeah, Iron Fist of Glee makes a good point. Nothing was never the bad guy. That's the thing. Remember, the PCs aren't the good guys. Nothing tried to be a good guy, but the PCs won. They beat him, and they got what they wanted. What does the cult know about Frankie's past? Nothing. That was a thing that I thought might be interesting, but we've gone a different direction with the Fishers. What will Gritch do when they realize they're making the Maelstrom worse? I don't know, but it's not really about that anymore. What did nothing offer the Raiders? Well, we don't know, and we might never find out, because the Raiders are all dead, so it might not come out. Did the Clavers modify the Fisher record? Hell yes. Hell yes, they did. And what could the PCs do to save nothing? They don't seem to give a shit about him, so... Even I feel bad for nothing, and I made the guy into the, like, creepy monster that he is. But they're all a bunch of monsters, right? That's it. That's the revelation. Ringsong88 asks, from what I've seen, the map is sort of limited. Yeah, it's only... Let's see how big. Like, the whole campaign takes place on less than 100 kilometers aside. I guess diagonally we've got, yeah, 80K diagonally. So 50 by 70, give or take. Yeah, not a lot of space. I assume this is happening everywhere on the world. Maybe this is the last one, maybe it's not. But that's a thing that's occurring. All right, let's take a quick look and update the fronts for hunger and for despair before we close up for the day. So, the Fisher clans get aggressive. That is the thing that's happening. Oops, I don't need to measure how far the direction is of their aggression. There we go. Easy. Alright, so this will continue until all the Fishers are dead because the war is going on. I think Frankie might be able to affect this one, but you'll notice it's past 9, so it can't get better. We can try to slow it down, but it'll never get better. The Bountiful Water, no one's tries to seize it yet, but if we get to all-out war, it's going to dry up. So that's going to be a bad scene. We've answered this question. I'm actually going to move this up into description. What's the deal with the Fishers' use of Bountiful Water? We don't know, but they've mentioned it. What will we do when the water dries up? Don't know that. Who's sending Satan the prophetic dreams? Probably the Clavers. We don't know. Move that into description here because we kind of know that one. What will we do in the Bountiful Water? We got that. What's the connection between nothing and Satan? We don't know why, but we know that nothing and Gritch are responsible for Satan being hurt. What will Jonah do to regain control of the hold? This is not interesting to me right now. Like I could see us very much doing this as a second season. Like what happens? Like we lose Gritch, we lose Navarre, the world gets all fucked up, but Frankie joins the Claver or joins the Fishers, and we do a whole second season about Frankie and the Fishers. We get some new characters. Might happen, right? Because this show is meant to rotate. We might come back to Apocalypse World. Maybe when second edition comes out, we'll come back and we'll visit Frankie, and we can do a little like Clave game, or a Fisher game. So this might be relevant in the future, but we don't know, right? What happened to Satan? We're not sure yet. What did Nothing Gritch do to get cast out? A bad thing? Did the Clavers engineer the record in the first place? Maybe. I think it's more interesting that they fucked with it, but yep, that's a thing. I want to know... Because honestly, all you have to do to be a fisher is just fuck with the record, right? Go in there, exacto out a page, replace the page. Like, if the Clavers have the ability to, like, bookbind, they could make an entire fake record and swap it out. Right? So, who is it? Who's doing this? Is it Jesus? That'd be fucked up, right? Is it Jesus? I'm gonna put another question. Fucking Jesus the betrayer. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they're archivists, right? Like, of course it's Jesus. So, we'll see. Probably. It's probably Jesus. Fisher clan politics. And then Despair, the Clavers, we don't have a countdown for them because we don't really know what they're doing. They're just kind of like fucking with things. So, we'll talk about this. Well, I need to think about whether they have a countdown or if they're just sort of like outside messing with things. So they created the disease. They've been trying to reprogram Navarre. The memory is engineered. We know all this. So here we go. They've been sending Satan dreams. They knew the apocalypse was coming and tried to fight it. So, again, I've mentioned this before. If there was a quarantine in the game, they would be a Claver, for sure. Psi harm everywhere. So, we also learned that Westridge is a lie, right? There's no rotten disease. There's no filter mask problem. It's a lie. It's a defense, right? It's a defense mechanism. So kick it. Doesn't matter. It's out. Red Yellow Girl asks, any tips for dealing with threats that might not fit into a fundamental scarcity? Yeah, they belong in the home front. You can put them there until they fit somewhere else. They may never. They might just be home front stuff. All right. So. Do we care about Jericho and Westridge? Not really. So there's some personal stuff with Navarre and Tyne, Brentwood and Navarre. What are the Clave Dwellers doing to fix their problem? Nothing. It's not a problem. We don't know about Preen or Amble. Again, these are stories that, like the Fishers, are maybe a little too small for our scope right now. They're a little too personal. So if they come up, we can look at them. But I don't think they will. I do want to add a couple more, though. I want to add... so what will Metropolis do with Gritch and Nothing? Because now they're home. What will Burns do when they learn about the mutation of the disease? What will Gritch do when they learn the truth? Yeah, the Fisher Wars, exactly, Arath. Like, the Clave loses their cloak and goes to war with the Fishers. It could be this whole other thing, right? We could see Gritch again. Maybe Metropolis dies, we see Gritch again, but Gritch is the heart holder of the Clave now, and it's Gritch versus Frankie in this, like, battle to the death, right? Is Nothing going to be able to kill himself or himself? Kelsa Delphi, is it canon now that Gritch and Nothing aren't actually siblings? No, they are siblings, but that's why they sent Gritch to go get Nothing. I don't think that when they were in the Clave they knew that they were siblings, but they definitely are. Like, the disease has proved that. It may just be like one of those ironic things that nobody knew, and it's a cover story that's true. Yeah, they might not be directly like siblings, but they might be cousins. They're definitely related by blood. They're family. One thing actually I wanna maybe it doesn't matter. We'll put it in the fear one, I think, or the decay one. Because I do have a question. Oops. Sorry, I totally just closed my window. Good job. Way to go, Adam. I just apocalypsed the game. All right, let's try this again here. Good work. That's all it is. It just takes one button and you've killed the entire world. Okay, here we go. So anyway, look, I brought it back. It's alive again. What I wanted to ask myself to remember is, who is Tao and Mercer's mother? I know a lot of people want this to be Gritch, but I think that Gritch is too young. But anyway, I think they're siblings. I think that's the route we're gonna take. Yeah, exactly. I brought the game back, but this one's only a copy. We're all in the maelstrom now. All right, well, cool, everybody. What I think you're seeing now, and keep this in mind because we're coming up on episode 10, what you're seeing now is the tail end of the first arc. And yes, some of this is engineered by me, some of this is engineered by the players, but we need to give the game credit for creating this narrative arc. The mechanisms of the game are doing this for us in a lot of ways. So keep that in mind. It's a cool thing that Apocalypse World is doing for us. All of this stuff, these countdowns, the momentum, we're going to end the game. We're going to end the game. And there's still going to be room for another thing, but it will be a new thing, a different thing with its own threats. And they're going to, we're planting a new seed of a game, right? The world doesn't end with a bang. It's going to end with a confused whimper. I mean, Navari might end with a bang, but we'll see. I'm really excited to see Navari in a situation that she can't shoot her way out of. Yeah. So I definitely, like, in my head, I'm definitely sort of like I'm thinking about planning for a second season of Apocalypse World, whether we use the same world or not, we'll talk about later. It probably will be quite a ways down the line because we've got some other exciting games lined up for this slot. But we'll keep doing this. We'll keep GMing. We'll keep talking about the game. We'll keep talking about what MCing looks like. And what you're going to get an opportunity to do now that we're starting a new campaign tonight, is see how I GM 2 different games, right? So this is going to be my weird existential thing, and tonight at 5 o'clock Pacific, whatever that time is for you, you can tune in. You can join me, Andrew, Austin, Silden, and Colin for the first episode, character creation, of The Burning Wheel. So do that, please. Come back for that. Otherwise, you can keep tuning in to Apocalypse World content. We're going to have that special PvP-focused discussion show with John and Andrew next Thursday. We'll announce all that specifically on Twitter, but it'll be the same time slot. You'll be able to come here and check it out. So, as always, thanks for coming. Thank you for joining us here in the Apocalypse, and we will see you in, give or take, 5 hours. Have a good one, everybody. See you next time.